Nigeria, during the 2009 and 2010 academic session, removed the study of history from primary and secondary schools curriculum. Official reasons given for removing history as a subject were students shun the subjects, only a few jobs are available for history graduates, and that there is a dearth of history teachers. To date, Nigeria has no official account of 1967 to 1970 civil war. Many educationists have attested to the value of history for nation building, development of an individual, his society, and a larger community. Little wonder, it was cherry news to many when the presidency said the federal government is taking steps to restore history as a subject in primary and secondary schools curriculum. On Panorama, we shall beam our searchlight on the importance of history in schools and as a catalyst for national development. Don't forget that you can follow this news broadcast live on our website at nta.ng/live, on YouTube at NTA News Online. You can also visit our Facebook page at NTA Network News, our Twitter handle at NTA News Now, and on Instagram at NTA Network for updates. I am Adeola Komiakere. Welcome to Panorama. President Muhammadu Buhari has held a strategic meeting with key members of the Nigerian delegation towards achieving a successful outing ahead of the formal opening of a general debate at the 77th session of the United Nations General Assembly in New York. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo has details.
A watershed moment, transformative solutions to interlocking challenges is the focus of this year's General Assembly. National statements by heads of state and government and subsequent debate at plenary will, amongst others, center on the war in Ukraine, the energy crisis, climate action, ending the COVID-19 pandemic, and transforming education. For President Muhammadu Buhari, who is taking the floor on Wednesday, August 77, is certainly his last outing as elected leader of Nigeria. This meeting, attended by key government officials on his entourage, is therefore aimed at fine-tuning strategies towards making his address to the world leaders the most memorable and impactful.
I'm sure that in a way he will be saying goodbye to the assembly, and of course that will be tied to the general election. So he is going to reiterate the fact that the elections in Nigeria are going to be peaceful, are going to be free, are going to be fair. It's an opportunity for the president to bring forth Nigerian issues which have global implications, and to also address global issues that have Nigerian implications. There is no greater platform than the United Nations General Assembly. It's a global platform, and the president is going to make the best use of it to look at issues as they affect Nigeria, global issues as they affect Nigeria, and Nigerian issues as they have global implications.
The Nigerian leader is also expected to participate in high-level meetings and side events, including the Nigeria International Economic Partnership Forum, convened by the federal government of Nigeria in partnership with the Africa Business Roundtable. This is to open up Nigeria's economy to international capital and attract the desired foreign direct investment.
Nigeria has vast opportunities, but there are challenges which have been hindering and hampering those opportunities. So this is a platform for Nigeria to then talk to global CEOs, business leaders, and tell them these and these and these are the things you can do with our country. So it's an opportunity for Nigeria to make a good harvest.
The president will also attend other key events on a practical approach to sustainable solutions organized by the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, as well as the EFCC NEPAD program on combating illicit financial flows. The Nigerian leader is also scheduled to hold strategic bilateral engagements with world leaders, renowned investors, and heads of multinational organizations before departing New York. From New York, Adamu Sambu, NTA News.
The National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA, has seized the largest consignment of hard substances weighing more than 1.8 tons, with street value of 194 billion naira. Winanaka reports that the operation led to the arrest of 4 drug barons and a foreign accomplice.
The searchlight of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency on the arrest of these suspects who specialized in trafficking cocaine commenced since 2018. The cartel, suspected to be members of an international drug syndicate, was rounded up at a warehouse in the Ikorodu area of the state through a well-coordinated and intelligence operation that lasted 2 days. Substances were stored in 10 travel bags and 13 drums. The agency says they were to be trafficked to buyers in Europe and other countries as discovered by the agency through its preliminary investigation. The consignment, regarded as the biggest singular cocaine seizure in the history of the Drug Law Agency, as buttressed by the Director of Media and Advocacy, Femi Babafemi, is a testament to translating into action the marching order of President Muhammadu Buhari by the officers and men of the agency to frustrate and arrest those involved in the illegal business.
It is the seizure. This new seizure is a deadly blow to the drug cartels and a sign that they will all go down. It's a strong message to them that they will all go down if they fail to back out of this illicit trade.
While commending all the officers and men of the agency involved in the operation, including those of the American Drug Enforcement Administration, Chairman of the agency, Brigadier General Mohammed Buba Marwa, retired, said the bust is a historical blow to the drug cartels. In Lagos, Lane Lenake, NTA News.
Great achievement there by the agency. Meanwhile, President Muhammadu Buhari has congratulated the chairman of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA, Brigadier General Buba Marwa, retired, on the successful operation of the agency, leading to the smashing of an international drug syndicate and recovery of 1,855 kilograms of cocaine. In a telephone conversation with the chairman of the Anti-Narcotics Agency from New York, where he is attending the 77th session of the United Nations General Assembly, President Buhari said that the news of the recovery gladdens his heart. I deeply appreciate the work that you have put into the eradication of a drug menace. It gladdens my heart as I continue to follow the successes achieved under your leadership. You have demonstrated over and again that choosing you to lead this fight against wicked merchants of death whose sole aim is to endanger and truncate the future of our youth is a very good choice. Please keep up the good work. At a meeting later with members of his delegation, the president said Buba Marwa is doing well. 2 tons of cocaine, that's a haul. The NDLEA had announced the highest cocaine seizure worth over $278 million and the rest of drug barons, including a foreigner, in a major operation lasting 2 days across different locations in Lagos. Now, Justice Oluwatoyin Taiwo of a Lagos State Special Offences Court sitting in Ikeja has sentenced Chukwudimeme Onwamadike, also known as Evans, and a former soldier, Victor Aduba, to 21 years imprisonment without an option of fine. This follows their conviction for the 2014 kidnap of a businessman, Silvanus Ahanonu. Adeni Taiwo completes the report.
To life imprisonment by Justice Hakeem Oshodi in February 2022 for another kidnapping offense The court held that the prosecution had proved beyond reasonable doubt that Evans and his co-defendant Victor Aduba committed the offences. They were also found to have collected a $420,000 ransom from the family of the victim. They were convicted and sentenced to 5 years each on 2 other counts of conspiracy to commit the acts and for being unlawful possession of firearms. The court held that the jail terms were run concurrently with no option of fine. Both men were arraigned in 2017 by the Lagos State government on a 4-count charge of kidnapping Mr. Haramono and collecting $420,000 as ransom from him. The prosecution had presented 4 witnesses, including the victim, to testify in its case. Both defendants testified in their defense and presented no witnesses. Upholding Evans' confessional statement while in police custody, the court dismissed this allegation of torture by the police and held that there were no bruises or marks on him during his video interview with the police. The second defendant, Mr. Aduba, was also convicted after it was proved that he was a member of Evans' kidnap gang and that his job as a serving soldier was to give them free passage while on operations. Upon their convictions, counsel for the defendants, Amobi Nzilu and Adeola Folari, had asked the court for a lesser sentence, but the court upheld the position of the prosecuting counsel, Yusuf Sule, who had urged the court to impose the maximum 21-year sentence as stipulated under Section 269, subsection 3 of the Criminal Laws of Lagos State 2011. In Lagos, Adini Itaiwo, NTA News.
And to other reports, ECOWAS member states are expected to adopt a unified security sector reform and governance in tackling terrorism and violent extremism in the West African sub-region. This is part of recommendations by security experts and foreign partners at a capacity development workshop for stakeholders in the security sector. Salwa Khalil Ibrahim has the report.
The political unrest in Guinea-Bissau, to issues of human trafficking in the Gulf of Guinea and other parts of Africa, telling negatively on the governance and security. In all of these, ECOWAS faces the brunt of it. Not to leave the whole burden on ECOWAS, the European Union, German government and its partners are taking the lead in strengthening the capacity of ECOWAS member states to be able to tackle new and emerging security threats in the sub-region.
It's a way to contribute to the democratization progress in the ECOWAS member states by encouraging security institutions to comply with democratic governance principles, which, it almost goes without saying, accountability, transparency, and the rule of law.
Regional accountability for granting rights and for the capacity of activities to worship before we step to the included. In this sense, our SSRG is right.
We can't speak of development when there is no peace, and we can't have peace when there is no purposeful strategy to make that peace happen. ECOWAS, security sector, point people to find us that tree.
For Nigeria, the commitment is renewed and ready to partner to achieve more successes.
And curbing these negative phenomena would indeed go a long way towards entrenching a sustainable development in our region.
In the next 4 days, these stakeholders will be brainstorming on ideas that will translate to practical action of reforming the security architecture of the West African sub-region. Salwa Khalil, NTA News.
You are watching Panorama on the network service of the NTA. Let's take a short break. More news when we return. But don't forget that you can still follow this news broadcast live on our website at nta.ng/live and on our other social media handles displayed for updates. Many thanks for staying with us. Before the removal of history as a teaching subject from the curriculum by the federal government in 2007, history was one of the subjects believed to cover all aspects of human society. Its withdrawal was greeted with mixed feelings and has continued to generate a lot of debate and controversies from all quarters. Now, Lagos State government has not only reintroduced history as a teaching subject in schools, but has made it compulsory to all students. Our correspondent in this report examines implications, benefits, and prospects of the study of history in schools.
Records of past events for posterity history was introduced in elementary and secondary schools as a branch of knowledge that studies and gives assessment of notable events. In 2007, however, this most important subject was deleted from schools' curriculum that it did not reflect the true picture of Nigeria and Nigerians.
History in the past, they will be talking about Mongo Park, they will be talking about colonial masters, but they don't talk about the history of Nigeria, the history of the people who fought for Nigeria's independence.
Government launched a new basic education curriculum which seeks to correct the abnormalities of the former one, believed to be lacking in the area of human capacity development, eradication of poverty, and the country's quest for total emancipation as an independent entity.
It removed our institutional memory with respect to one, our planning, our growth, our development, issues that has to do with our culture, and things that has to do with leadership and followership in Nigeria.
The Lagos State government recently introduced history classes in its unified scheme of work and insists that it will no longer be optional for pupils in elementary and junior secondary schools, while it remains an elective course for senior secondary school students. This is in accordance with directive from the Nigerian Education Research and Development Council, a move that has been applauded by many.
We are also trying to make sure that our curriculum is not only collaborative but also reflect our local content. Education must be relevant to our socio-cultural, socio-economic and socio-political affiliation and affinities.
Historians and stakeholders in the education sector believe that without a thorough understanding of the different cultural practices and social norms which are embedded in history, harnessing Nigeria's rich cultural diversity as a unique strength for promoting national development will not be realized. In Lagos, Amaka O, NTA News.
Joining me live in the studio to discuss more on the subject matter of reintroduction of history in schools curriculum is Dr. Funsho Olatunde, Associate Professor, Faculty of Education, University of Lagos. Good to have you join us on Panorama.
It's a pleasure, Adiola.
Okay,
Thank you for having me.
All right. Now, as a lecturer of history, as a subject, what was your reaction when you heard the federal government had reintroduced history in schools curriculum?
Thank you once again. My reaction, mixed feeling, mixed in the sense that on the one hand, I was elated. I mean, it's something that most of us have been asking for, and it has happened. But on the one hand, as somebody who is in the education sector, I ask critical questions as to how. I mean, we have introduced. So how are we going about this reintroduction?
Okay.
So that's why I say my reaction was mixed, please.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so it is often said that in order to move a nation forward and make it play its catalyst role as instrument for human and national development, there is, this need for the reintroduction of history in schools. Do you agree with this?
I quite agree with that. I agree with that because, maybe we first need to clear a point. Reintroduction is for history at the senior secondary school level. For the primary and the junior secondary, we never had history as a standalone subject. We had historical content being taught through social studies. So at those levels, we'll be talking about introduction of history. Now, for the senior secondary, that is where the reintroduction is happening. Now, as to your question, you'll find that for anything to happen to an individual, that individual must first have an understanding of self. The same goes for a community, a society, a state, a nation. If you don't have an understanding of self, it's difficult for you to determine where you are, because you must start from who you are, where you are, and where you want to go. So if we've removed history and we are not able to tell ourselves who we are, then it's difficult to say where we are and then to begin to look at where we want to go to. So that's why it's important to have history in school.
So that's, will I say, is one of the implications, on the psyche of our youths in this country, because our history was taken away about a decade ago.
You're very correct. In fact, when I teach in class, I usually laugh at my students, and when they ask me why I laugh, I tell them, I feel sorry for your generation because you seem to be lost on everything, and when I say everything, it's first sit down an average young man or young woman who went through that period when history was not being taught. They can't tell you anything about themselves. And because they cannot do that, there's a thing, when you look at human psychology, there's a thing about self-esteem. And self-esteem basically flows from who you are, the pride of place that you think you have occupied in space and time, which is history. Now, if you don't have a record of this, it's difficult for you to place any price on yourself, any tangible price on yourself. So you find our young people, they're just floating between the cultures that are available in the social space, which is very different from our original culture, the culture to which they belong, because that had been lost to history. They are not being able to assess history.
Okay. Now, Doctor, quickly, because we are short of time, we're running out of time, actually. It is said that students shun this subject, and from the background that the graduates of history, do not get, good jobs. How can this narrative be changed?
Well, I think a lot of work can be done by career counselors, guidance counselors in schools, because a lot of misinformation is out there. I studied history at first degree, and I always tell my students there are so many job opportunities there for those who studied history. But the problem is many times you don't bother because of this age-old tradition when parents feel that when you study history you are just going to be learning dates and names of people that have gone past. No, history goes beyond that. History now links with the past to explain the present and then the project for the future. It gives you an insight into the future. So we need to know all these things to help us move forward.
Thank you, Doctor, for your thoughts with us on Panorama concerning the reintroduction of history in schools.
Pleasure is all mine.
It's now time for us to take some sports. And that's it on Panorama today. Do not forget that the fastest and easiest way to becoming a star is to connect with the NTA to stand against rape and rapists. I am Adeola Komiakeri. Enjoy the rest of your day.